Hello, my name is Artis Holcomb, and if you've ever had a sister smile in your face while stealing everything behind your back, then you might understand why I'm telling this now. My sister Venna, America's sweetheart in red heels, publicly humiliated me at a fashion event, called me a burden, a nobody. But that wasn't the worst part. She stole my design, presented it as hers, lied on camera, had me erased from the show lineup while the world applauded her. But then, something shifted. Someone saw what she didn't hide well enough. The truth. And when it surfaced, she had no words left. What happens when the one who's supposed to protect you is the one who burns you down? The rooftop shimmered with string lights, and laughter floated above the Savannah skyline. Everyone there smelled like confidence, designer cologne, dry champagne, and ambition. I stepped out of the elevator into all of it, wearing the only black cocktail dress I owned. It wasn't even mine. Celia had lent it to me with a wink and a, "Don't let her eat you alive tonight." But Venna was already feeding on applause. She stood near the marble bar in a scarlet dress so sharp it could cut through glass. Her laugh rang out every few seconds, each one louder than the last. I watched as photographers angled for her attention, as if she were the only woman in the building holding a legacy. I kept my hands wrapped around my clutch like it could protect me. Someone brushed past me and muttered, "Didn't know they let interns in tonight." I turned. It was Venna, full grin, eyes locked on mine, like she was just getting started. "Still playing dress-up, sis?" A few heads turned. I smiled tightly, said nothing. "She's always been more of a burden than a brand," she added loudly, glass raised high. The crowd chuckled, and just like that, I vanished again. It wasn't always like this. There was a time, years ago, when Venna and I used to share the same studio table. We'd sketch side by side, argue over fabric swatches, compete over who could spot trends first. But somewhere between our mother's funeral and Venna's first big contract, something shifted. Her spotlight widened. Mine evaporated. A few weeks back, she texted me casually, "Hey, can I borrow your studio key for the night? Need to grab a mannequin I left." I'd said yes without blinking. Of course I did. Sisters trust each other. I hadn't thought twice when I left the final draft of my Southern Showcase submission, half complete, ink not even dry, spread across my drafting table. I assumed, foolishly, that boundaries still existed between us. Later, I'd learn the truth. Savannah Design Council's backdoor security footage never lies. But I didn't know that yet. Not then. Tonight, all I knew was that my sister had an audience, and I had a bruised sense of worth. Venna clinked her glass, drawing the room's attention. "I'd like to say a few words," she declared, voice smooth as bourbon. "This event isn't just about fashion. It's about heritage, vision, and knowing when to let go of what no longer serves you." She turned her head, right at me. "Some people are born to shine. Others—" She tilted her glass toward the floor. "Keep the lights off." More laughter. I held my ground. My nails dug half moons into my palm. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. That was always her magic trick, using charm as a scalpel. No one intervened. Not the PR rep standing nearby, not the family friend who used to bring us peach cobbler on Sundays, not even Darian, her boyfriend, maybe fiancé, who once helped me through a panic attack backstage. They all just watched. I left before dessert. Savannah's night air was humid and quiet. The historic squares looked frozen in time, each street lamp humming like it remembered better versions of me. I walked until my feet ached, then wandered back to my studio. The second I opened the door, something felt off. The desk was slightly shifted, the pen holder too far to the left. One of my fabric bins wasn't sealed properly, nothing big, nothing broken. But I noticed. Because when people overlook you long enough, you learn to memorize the tiny things no one else sees. I stood in the middle of the room, heartbeat ticking louder than the city noise outside. I scanned my work table, my pinned sketches, the scrap pile in the corner. It all looked fine, but wrong. Mom used to say, "You don't need noise to be heard. Truth has its own volume." That night, the truth said nothing, but it echoed. And in that silence, I heard something louder than applause, something breaking. Sleep never really came that night. I laid on the couch in my studio, fully dressed, shoes still on, staring at the ceiling fan as it hummed a slow rhythm. The shadows shifted with each spin, like they were trying to tell me something I hadn't yet caught. I hadn't touched my phone, hadn't touched my sketchpad. I just waited. For what? I didn't know. Maybe morning. The sun rose without ceremony, just a pale glow creeping over the windowsill. I finally sat up and checked my email. The official Southern Designers Showcase portal had updated its page. I clicked refresh once, then twice. By the third time, I realized what was missing. My name? Gone. Erased from the list like I'd never existed. I blinked at the screen, then scrolled again. Maybe it was a technical error. Maybe I was listed under the wrong category. No, it was deliberate. My phone nearly slipped out of my hands as I dialed the committee office. It rang twice before a young, overly calm voice answered. Southern Designers Showcase, this is Alana speaking. Hi, yes, this is Artist Holcomb. I was on the confirmed lineup for the showcase. I just checked the portal and my name isn't there anymore. Can you tell me what's going on? A pause. Then, there was a conflict of originality. A complaint was filed against your submission last night. Your registration's been placed on temporary suspension pending review. My chest tightened. Filed by who? I'm not authorized to disclose that. Thank you for your understanding. Click. I stared at my phone as if it might apologize. It didn't. It just sat there, cold and silent in my palm. I tried calling Celia next, my friend, my mentor, my last sliver of connection to the committee, straight to voicemail. I left a message, short and shaking. Please call me, something happened. Then I texted Darian. Do you know what Vena's doing? Did she say anything about my submission? No reply. The message stayed unread. For a while I just stood in the middle of the studio, surrounded by my own dreams. But they didn't feel like mine anymore. The room felt invaded, familiar but violated, like something had passed through and left behind an echo. Then came the knock. No, scratch that. Not a knock. A shove. Like something had been forced under the door. I turned slowly, heart already pounding. A yellow envelope. No return address. No handwriting. Just there, like a dare. I bent down, picked it up. Inside was a single sheet of printed paper and a grainy image. No signature. No explanation. Just 6 words. Walk away quietly. You won't win. And below that, a photocopy of my original design. My sketch. Only my watermark was gone. The little swirl of my initials, the date stamp, even the digital thread count overlay, erased. I read the sentence again. Walk away quietly. I crumpled the page in my hand, then forced myself to uncrumple it. I needed it. Evidence. Proof. But more than that, I needed to understand just how deep this went. I turned to my computer and opened the folder marked Showcase Final. All my original files were still there, time-stamped, layered, annotated, mine. But none of it felt safe anymore. I sat down at the desk and stared at the screen. At first, I tried to go through the motions. Open, copy, export, pretend like I had control. But the longer I stared, the more the doubt grew teeth. What if they were right? What if I had already lost? Before the first stitch was sewn, before the first sketch was inked. I could still hear Vena's voice from the night before. Some people are born to shine. Others, keep the lights off. I felt the weight of those words now like lead in my bones. And then another voice, much older, whispered from the back of my memory. When they silence you, write louder. My old mentor once told me, don't fight for attention, fight for your name. I breathed in, clicked save, and just as I stood to grab my notebook, I saw it again, my desk drawer, just barely cracked open. I never leave it like that. I reached for it, hesitated, then pulled it open fully, empty. No spare sketches, no pattern templates, just the faintest scent of her perfume, Vena's, something citrusy and artificial. A sour taste filled my mouth. But it wasn't the sketch that scared me. It was how fast someone else had made it disappear. I left the drawer open that morning, staring into its hollow space longer than I probably should have. Then I locked the studio, tucked the envelope under my coat, and made my way to the convention center. The city was already humming. Traffic lights blinked lazily over Bay Street as early joggers passed with earbuds in, oblivious to the world I was stepping into. A world where someone was trying to erase me in broad daylight. I arrived 2 hours before the showcase doors opened. It wasn't for a main stage slot. Those had been stolen from me. But Celia, in her quiet way, had whispered to someone who whispered to someone else, and now I had a table at the Emerging Creators Side Gallery, a half-lit hallway near the loading dock. Glamorous? No. But it was space, and right now, space was survival. My assistant, Myra, met me near the garment check-in, her face pale. She leaned in. Artis. Someone from Vena's team was poking around here earlier. Said they were double-checking press tags, but... Her voice trailed off. I nodded, jaw tight. Did they touch anything? I don't know, but the mood changed after they left. You should check the dress. I rushed to the rack. There it was, my prototype gown. Soft dove gray silk, asymmetrical neckline, hand-beaded seams, and a tear. A long, deliberate, almost surgical slice across the back hem. Not frayed, not accidental. Sabotage. I didn't speak, just ran my hand across the damage like a mother checking for a fever. Vena didn't want to beat me. She wanted me gone. An hour later, the showcase began. From the wings, I watched as models shimmered down the catwalk in glowing gowns, brilliant layers of chiffon and contrast stitching. Voices buzzed from VIP rows, press badges flashed. My name wasn't on the schedule, but I waited, just in case someone, anyone, remembered I was here. And then, Vena took the mic. She wasn't supposed to. The MC had just announced a break before the final segment, but Vena strode on stage like she'd paid for the floor beneath her. Hi everyone, she said, perfectly poised. Before we continue, I just wanted to address something quickly. I felt the air shift. Myra gripped my wrist. Celia, across the room, straightened slightly. Vena smiled wide. There's been some unfortunate talk this week about design overlap, plagiarism, and I just want to be very clear. My work is original. It always has been. I don't need to borrow or copy to shine. She paused, letting her words land. If anyone else feels differently, well, I suggest they let the sketches speak. Laughter. Not loud, but enough. A low ripple of uncomfortable chuckles, heads turning. I stood there frozen, clutching my ruined gown, pulse pounding. She hadn't named me. She didn't have to. Everyone looked. Someone whispered, Is that the sister she's talking about? I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I held the gown tighter, and I watched her. Vena turned, satisfied, and handed the mic back. The crowd clapped, nervously, unsure if this was drama or performance art. Celia caught my eye across the ballroom. She gave the faintest nod. No words, just, I see you. That was enough. I walked out of the convention center before the final segment began. No dramatic exits, no shouting matches, just silence. The only kind I could control. 3 blocks away, I ducked into a corner cafe with a faulty Wi-Fi router and lukewarm espresso. I didn't care. I opened my laptop, connected to my cloud, and started downloading. Time-stamped sketch files, email exchanges, studio access logs, security footage thumbnails. Every thread I thought might matter. Every receipt she thought I didn't keep. And then, finally, my smile returned. Small, barely there. But it was real. Because she may have stolen my sketch, but I kept something she didn't know existed. Proof. I stayed in that cafe until the sun dipped below the rooftops, casting long gold shadows across the sidewalk. I didn't want to go home. Not because I feared what waited, but because I didn't want to face the silence in my apartment just yet. Silence wasn't safety anymore. It was reminder. Still, by 8, I found myself back at my place, flicking on lights and toeing off shoes like routine could still protect me. The air inside was warm and still. I made tea, sat, stared at my laptop. On social media, Vena was everywhere. Headlines praised her bold reinterpretation of heritage silhouettes. She posed in crimson, smug and spotless, like the drama had never happened. I typed my name into the search bar. Nothing. Not a single tag. Not a mention. I had vanished. I clicked into my cloud drive and renamed the folder with trembling fingers. Sketch backup, original proof. It was organized now, chronological, annotated, ready. I didn't have a plan yet, but I had a record. Across town in a sleek loft lined with black and white photo prints, Darian sat at his editing console, headphones around his neck. He wasn't working. He was watching footage from the show, and watching her, Venna, on stage, radiant, lying. He paused the video and looked over at her iPad, still logged into their shared cloud account. For years they'd synced everything, for convenience, she said. Curiosity made his fingers move. One swipe, then another. Photo gallery. And there it was. A high-resolution image of a sketch. My sketch. Dated, geotagged, snapped at night. In my studio. Darian leaned back. His mouth parted, but no sound came. He tapped the info tab. Metadata was intact, time-stamped 2 weeks before the showcase. He stared at it like it might blink first. Then, quietly, he saved it to his desktop and deleted the sync entry. He closed her iPad without a word. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the ping. At first I ignored it. Then I saw the subject line. Anonymous submission for your protection. No sender name. A burner Gmail. I clicked. Attached was the photo. My original sketch. Metadata included. A note below. You didn't imagine it. You were right. For a second, the floor didn't feel solid. I leaned against the kitchen counter, reading that line again. Then again. My whole body stilled. Somewhere, someone had just crossed a line. But this time, it was in my favor. I didn't know for sure who sent it, but I had guesses. And more importantly, I had confirmation. By midnight, I'd forwarded the entire file to Celia's legal contact, the same woman who handled licensing deals and quiet lawsuits for elite designers. I didn't explain. Just included a message. For archive and review, please confirm receipt. Then I opened a blank document. Titled it, Exhibit A, Timeline of Misconduct. I listed dates. Venna's studio visit. The disappearance. The night she borrowed my key. The day the lineup changed. The public accusation. And now, the anonymous proof. When I finished, I closed the file and backed it up twice. No anger, no panic, just precision. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. She'd taken the spotlight, the applause, the stage. But I still had the truth. And if she thought I was done, she forgot I've been quiet, never blind. 2 mornings after the showcase, I was folding laundry, half-focused, absently matching socks that never seemed to have proper pairs, when my phone buzzed. I picked it up with little interest, expecting spam or another shallow attempt at PR crisis management from someone orbiting Venna's sinking career. Instead, it was from Celia. Just one line. I need you at the archive room. Bring nothing. Just come. No greeting, no emoji, no context. That was all I needed. I dropped the last sock mid-fold, grabbed my keys without even changing out of my sweats, and was out the door within seconds. My heart knew the pace before my brain caught up. The archive room was deep inside the downtown building of the Savannah Fashion Council, hidden behind a false panel door near the back of the records hallway. It wasn't labeled. Most designers didn't even know it existed. Only senior council members, people like Celia, who had been in this industry long enough to know where real secrets were kept and who they needed to be protected from. She was already there when I arrived. She didn't say hello, didn't offer a seat. She just turned slightly toward me and said, "This isn't about protecting you anymore." Her voice was firm. "It's about correcting the record." She tapped a key on the control panel, and the widescreen monitor in front of her lit up. A still frame was paused mid-motion, time-stamped, 12 days before the showcase. My stomach curled. I knew what was coming. She pressed play. The grainy footage sprang to life. A figure appeared in the dim hallway. Familiar. Too familiar. The camera angle, high and silent, caught the way she moved, confident, unhurried, like she belonged there. She didn't hesitate, didn't glance around. Venna. She was dressed in black, hair tied back in a tight bun. No bag, no assistant, just her and her phone. She walked up to the studio door, my studio door, entered with a swipe of a keycard, and paused at my work table. Then, with the ease of someone who had done this before, she raised her phone and began to snap pictures. Not just glances, not inspiration shots, zoom-ins, close-ups, angles of specific details, the grain of a hemline sketch, the inked neckline curve, my initials, my hand. She took them all. She moved across the room methodically, capturing every angle of the final draft I'd been working on for weeks. the design I hadn't even shown to Celia yet, the design that I thought was safe in the one space that belonged to me. She backed out of the room 10 minutes later, expression unreadable. The video paused again, frame perfect, on her face as she turned to look directly at the camera. Not smiling, just blank, unbothered. Celia spoke quietly, like her voice didn't want to disrupt the wait in the room. She thought no one would check the backup servers. I stood completely still, every muscle in my body locked. That's it, I thought. Then I said it out loud. That's it. Celia turned to me and nodded. It's more than enough. That same afternoon, Celia called for a closed-door session with the Council Board under Article 7, Ethics and Originality Review. It wasn't common, it wasn't encouraged, but it was allowed, when a designer's integrity was in question with direct evidence attached. There were no cameras, no press, just the board, Celia, and me. The board chair glanced at the folder Celia had submitted ahead of the meeting, lips pursed. "This is highly irregular," she said. Not accusatory, but cautious. Celia didn't flinch. "So is theft," she replied flatly. She turned the monitor to face the room and pressed play. Same footage, same silence. The room was still for a long time. Then came the small sounds. Gasps, someone whispering, "Oh my God!" Another hand slowly covering a mouth. The silence after was even heavier. Then Celia placed the printed evidence side by side. My original sketch with timestamp and metadata intact, and the version Venna submitted under her name. The resemblance wasn't vague. It was identical. The head of judging, a woman I had once interned for, who hadn't looked me in the eye since the showcase, adjusted her glasses and stared for a long time. Then she said, voice quiet but unshakable, "This isn't just misconduct. It's theft." I hadn't realized I was holding my breath until that moment. Celia turned to me. "Do you want to say anything?" I stood slowly. My hands were steady even though my pulse pounded in my ears. "I don't want revenge," I said. My voice didn't waver. "I just want the space to build without being erased." No one spoke. I looked around once, not for approval, but for confirmation. I saw heads lowered, backs straightened, notes scribbled. That was enough. I gathered the evidence, the proof of my name, my line work, my signature, and walked out of the room. No one followed. No one clapped. The only sound was my own footsteps on the polished floor and the soft click of the door behind me. I didn't see Venna there. Of course I didn't. Cowards never stay for the verdict. And she didn't need to be there. Because that moment, it wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. About reclaiming the part of myself I had been taught to shrink. About finally understanding that I didn't need applause to matter. I didn't need headlines or hashtags. I needed the truth, and I had it. And in a world obsessed with noise, I had found something better. Clarity. They say silence is weakness, that if you're not screaming, you're losing. But that day, I proved them wrong. Because the difference between silence and weakness, I just showed them all. By the time I woke the next morning, Venna had already scheduled her damage control. I saw the headline while pouring coffee. Designer Grimaldi breaks silence. Exclusive breakfast briefing. The image showed her arriving at a boutique hotel in downtown Savannah, flanked by 2 assistants and wearing beige, her version of humility. A stylist's idea of sincerity. I pulled my robe tighter, sat at the kitchen island, and turned on the local news stream. Venna stood at the podium in front of a gold-trimmed breakfast spread. Croissants, crystal pitchers of grapefruit juice. The whole thing looked staged, manufactured. Her voice trembled just enough to sound unrehearsed. "I've always celebrated creativity, including within my own family," she began. "But lately, things have been twisted. I never intended to overshadow anyone, especially my sister. I love her." That word, love, hit like static in my ears. Reporters stayed quiet at first, scribbling. Then a woman near the back raised her voice. "Miss Grimaldi, sources confirm your design's metadata match timestamps from your sister's original sketch files. Care to explain that?" Venna's face stayed still, lips slightly parted like a caught actress mid-scene. Another reporter followed up. "Is it true security footage places you at Miss Holcomb's studio late at night without her present?" Venna glanced to her assistant, then back to the room. "That footage was taken out of context. I was..." collecting something I left behind. One more voice chimed in, an older man with a local paper. Do you deny the Southern Designers Board is reviewing claims of fabrication under Article 7? She didn't answer that, because she couldn't. The clip ended, but the unraveling didn't. By lunch, the hashtag #Sketchgate had trended nationwide. The comments weren't kind. Imagine stealing from your own sister and still booking press brunches. If your talent's real, why steal? Designs fade, character lasts. Brands began pulling out fast. One by one, they posted statements on social media, some generic, others pointed. We believe in originality. Effective immediately, we are no longer affiliated with Miss Grimaldi. Our campaigns stand for integrity. We've removed all digital assets featuring Miss Grimaldi. By mid-afternoon, her photos vanished from fashion house websites. Event posters were updated. Scheduled interviews were postponed indefinitely. She wasn't canceled. She was erased. I watched it all unfold from the quiet of my living room. No cheering, just sipping cold coffee and letting the silence breathe. My phone buzzed. Celia. You didn't need to speak, the truth shouted. I replied with a single heart emoji, then opened my laptop again. This time, not for defense, for design. A new folder, a new concept, something raw, personal, called Quiet Forms. Just lines and intention, for now. That evening, an email landed in my inbox. Subject: Reallocation Southern Designer Series from campaigns@southdesseries.com. Dear Artis Holcomb, in light of confirmed authentication records, we've adjusted contributor credits across our seasonal campaign. Your original designs have been reinstated. Thank you for your patience, campaign director. Below it was a digital flyer with my sketch, my name, my watermark. I didn't cry. I didn't text anyone. I just leaned back and exhaled like I hadn't in weeks. Later that night, Venna posted something vague to her public account. When the knives come from your own blood, the cut hits marrow. The comments weren't buying it. Try blaming your own mirror. Nobody stabbed you, girl. You slipped on your own fake story. I didn't respond, never planned to, because I didn't take her down. She walked off the edge herself. A week passed. Savannah had shifted seasons behind my back. The late summer heat softened, and each morning smelled more like cedar and metal paint. I stood outside the storefront, my storefront, brushing the final coat of navy blue onto the wooden sign that would soon read, Artis Holcomb Studio. The lettering was clean, confident. I had measured it 4 times, just to be sure. A gust of wind lifted the edge of the drop cloth near the door. I reached for it, and heard a voice I hadn't planned on hearing again. You always did like your name in quiet places. I didn't turn. Not right away. I knew the sound of her voice, even without the usual layers of performance. This was Venna. No makeup, no camera flashes, no curated charm. Just her, in worn jeans and a pale cardigan that swallowed her frame. What are you doing here? I asked, still holding the paintbrush mid-air. I figured you wouldn't answer a message, so I came. I finally looked at her. Her eyes were ringed in the kind of tired that doesn't sleep off. I said nothing. I'm not here to cause anything. She shifted her weight. I don't really have anyone else to come to. I laid the brush down across the top of the paint can and wiped my fingers on a cloth. She continued before I could stop her. I lost it all. The contracts, the invites. Darian moved out 3 days ago. Said he needed space to her examine trust. She forced a bitter smile. Guess I've been inspiring a lot of soul-searching lately. I leaned against the doorway and crossed my arms. I messed up, she added, softer. Not just with you, but mostly with you. I waited. That wasn't the end of it. I got caught up. I panicked. People forget fast, Artis. If you're not loud, you disappear. Her words tasted of rehearsed regret, like something polished in a mirror before showing up at my door. Do you know how many times I've had to defend myself this week? She asked, as if I might be sympathetic. And no one listens. Not anymore. Not after that tape. That stupid tape. I raised an eyebrow. She dropped the performance. I need help, she said flatly. Money, a way back in. I know you're opening this place. Maybe there's something I could do here. Admin stuff, back office, or something. That did it. You're not serious. I am, she said, finally meeting my eyes. I'm asking. I wouldn't if I had another option. I walked over to the bench by the sidewalk and sat down slowly. The afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the brick. You didn't just mess up, Venna, I said, voice steady. You burned bridges while I was still standing on them. I said I'm sorry. I shook my head. No, you said you lost everything. You said you were scared of being forgotten. You said you need help. But none of that is an apology. It's a pitch. She took a step forward, defensive. You think I'm lying? I think you're desperate, I answered. And I think you're still trying to spin survival into sympathy. Her face tightened. I didn't destroy your reputation, I said, standing. You handed it over with both hands. And now you want me to fix it? You're my sister, she snapped. Exactly, I said. And you've weaponized that word so many times it's lost all meaning. A beat of silence. So that's it? She asked. You're just going to leave me out here? No, I said, picking up the paintbrush again. I'm going to finish this sign, then open my store, then live a life I built without having to step over anyone. She scoffed. Wow, look at you. I paused, then looked her in the eyes. No, I said again. Look at you. You came here thinking the same silence you mocked me for would now become your safe space. Her mouth parted, but no words came. She turned finally, took a few steps, then stopped. So this is who you are now? She muttered, almost to herself. I stared back at my sign, brushing the last corner. No, I said. This is who I always was. You just never looked long enough. She walked away slowly. No last insult, no slam of a car door, just her, shrinking with each step, until the corner swallowed her whole. And for once, I didn't ache watching her leave. A few days had passed since Venna showed up at my doorstep, stripped of makeup, and wrapped in regret that smelled more like desperation than apology. The boutique was nearly ready now, shelves lined with carefully folded fabrics, every price tag handwritten with a steady hand that no longer trembled. Light poured through the freshly cleaned windows like it had been waiting for years to land here. For once, it didn't feel like the sun was spotlighting someone else. It felt like it saw me. And then it happened. I was behind the counter, sorting inventory into neat little categories: cotton, linen, silk. My thoughts were drifting somewhere between fatigue and quiet satisfaction when my phone buzzed. I expected a delivery notification, maybe a friendly check-in from Celia or Myra. But the screen told a different story. Reddit. A design thread I sometimes browsed in the quiet hours when sleep refused to visit. The title of the top post slapped the air out of my lungs. Ask me anything, I was her assistant. Here's what really happened. I clicked before I even realized my fingers had moved. The thread unfurled like a trapdoor. The assistant, anonymous but clearly real, was answering questions with screenshots. Real ones. Dated, time-stamped, linked to names I recognized. She wasn't speculating. She was confessing. One image stopped me cold. An email instructing her to rename a sketch file before submitting it to the Southern Designers Showcase. A-valut23.dsf became vg-venus23.dsf. My initials erased, my watermark gone. But the lines, the folds, the shadow layering, unmistakably mine. The caption beneath the screenshot was simple. I didn't want to do it, but I was told it was part of the job. I sat down hard on the stool behind the counter. The comments beneath the post were flooding in fast. Outrage, disbelief, and something that hadn't been there before. Collective recognition. This is criminal, literal art fraud. Why does it always take an assistant to blow the whistle? Venna's empire is made of stolen thread. I didn't refresh the page. I didn't need to. The fire was already catching. I could feel the heat of it through the glass. By early afternoon, L'Ambroise, Venna's most prestigious brand collaboration, issued a statement across their social channels. We stand for innovation rooted in authenticity. Effective immediately, our collaboration with Miss Venna Grimaldi is terminated. We do not condone creative theft, regardless of personal history. More followed. Blogs, magazines, international design networks. They resurfaced the security footage. They slowed it down, zoomed in, added overlays and arrows. Venna entering my studio. Venna photographing my work. Venna uploading sketches with metadata stripped and renamed. Every frame was a nail in the coffin of her curated legacy. A lie that walked like legacy, one headline read. Another said, when ambition erases bloodlines. From the boutique window, I saw pedestrians scrolling on their phones, pausing, whispering. One woman even pointed toward my storefront, then back to her screen. Her face looked like someone who had just realized they'd been rooting for the wrong character in the story. I stepped away from the glass. I didn't need their validation. But I couldn't lie. It was a strange, steady kind of justice to witness. The world was finally catching up to a truth I'd known in silence. That night, after locking up the shop and listening to the soft hum of a tired ceiling fan, I sat in the back with my laptop open and my tea growing cold. Celia's text arrived just past 10 p.m. They want you to keynote at the new Designers Summit. No pressure, but you should think about it. I stared at it for a while. Then I opened my folder marked Rebuild. Inside were sketches, unaltered, unfiltered, just the work, clean lines, pure forms. Everything I'd once feared wasn't enough, now shining without apology. I didn't answer Celia yet. Instead, I picked up my journal, turned to a fresh page, and wrote a single line. The truth never shouts. It just waits for echoes to return. The next morning, as if the universe was doubling down, a podcast I'd followed for years uploaded a new episode. Title: Family Betrayals in Fashion, When Genius Gets Ghosted. They never said our names outright, but every syllable was laced with familiarity. The host laid it out like a cold case finally cracked open. Voiceovers from old interviews, timeline comparisons, snippets from past campaigns that now felt like red flags no one had read in time. A guest speaker summed it up best. This wasn't just about style, it was about identity, about watching someone take your blueprint and pray no one noticed. But we did. I sat in my kitchen, phone screen dim, tea now ice cold. No grin, no bitterness, just peace. A kind of stillness that felt earned. Venna hadn't returned. Not to my door, not to the feeds. She was gone from the headlines, gone from the brand websites, gone from the calendar invites she used to post screenshots of. And I realized something. She didn't need to be here, because some betrayals don't get resolved. They just get cut loose. Like old thread, snipped, dropped, walked away from. And me? I wasn't angry, not anymore, because this was never about revenge. It was about being seen. And now, I finally was. 3 weeks later, I turned the key in the door of my boutique and flipped the sign to open. The bell chimed, a soft, clear sound I had chosen myself, and within minutes, a modest line of customers formed. No influencers, no gala dresses, just a retired librarian from 2 blocks over, a high school art teacher with a curious smile, and a teenage girl who asked if the draped sleeve in the window was vintage or genius. I told her, maybe both. The first purchase was a simple linen wrap blouse, $42, paid in cash. It wasn't about the money, it was about the receipt. My name, finally printed above the barcode, not buried in the footer. Later that afternoon, while I was restocking scarves, a delivery truck pulled up. The driver dropped off a plain white envelope. No stamp, no return address, no handwriting on the front, just, to the owner, printed in stiff block letters. Inside was a single folded card. The handwriting looked rushed, not shaky, determined, familiar in a way that made my stomach pause. I lost myself chasing what was never mine. I hope someday you'll see that letting go wasn't weakness. It was the only thing I had left. No name. But I didn't need one. I tucked the card into the bottom drawer of my desk, beneath an old sketch pad and a packet of dried lavender I never used. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. Some closures don't call for emotion, they ask for stillness. That night, I stayed late at the boutique. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Under one of the unused bolts of fabric in the corner, I found a small, yellowed envelope. I remembered tucking it there years ago, when I moved out of the family house. The handwriting on this one was unmistakable. My mother's. Inside was a letter written in long cursive lines. Sweetheart, you don't owe the world a performance. You don't need to scream to be heard. Just make things that last, and they will. The applause fades. What's left is what you build with your hands, and your hands have always known the truth. Love, Mom. I pressed the letter flat and slid it into a small silver frame. Set it near the register where customers could see. But not too easily. It was mine before it was theirs. The next morning, as I dusted the shelves, a woman came in with a curious expression. She looked at the framed letter, then the sketches on the wall. "Is this your first store?" she asked gently. I thought for a second. "It's not the first place I've worked," I said, "but it's the first place I've been seen." She nodded, smiling. "Well, I see you." I thanked her and the moment passed, but then I glanced out the boutique window and saw her. Venna, walking on the other side of the street, hair in a simple knot, no heels, no entourage, no phone in her hand. She paused at the corner, looked across toward me, but didn't step closer. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just nodded faintly, and kept walking. I didn't move, because this wasn't her chapter anymore. This was mine. And for the first time in a long time, the silence outside matched the calm inside. No crowds, no cameras, no chaos. Just the soft thud of my heart behind my ribs, steady as the rhythm of my own name written in block letters across the glass. Artist Holcomb, Originals. Some endings don't need applause, just a locked door and a light left on. I've come to understand something I wish I'd learned sooner. Silence isn't always weakness, and raising your voice doesn't have to mean shouting. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is keep walking forward, steady, clear, and true, while the noise fades behind you. There were moments I wanted to vanish entirely, moments where I wanted to scream, to burn everything down the way she tried to burn me. But I didn't. I chose something harder. The long road, the honest one. The road that doesn't give you quick applause or instant vindication, but offers something more lasting. Peace. Not the kind that's quiet because it's afraid, but the kind that comes when you finally know who you are, and no one else gets to rewrite that. If you've ever felt small, pushed aside, overlooked, or betrayed by someone you trusted, please hear this. You are not small. Their shadow doesn't define you, and sometimes the only reason you feel dimmed is because you've been standing too close to someone who was never meant to block your light. So, now I want to ask you something. Have you ever been betrayed by someone in your family? Or maybe you've had to walk away quietly, even when it felt like the world didn't believe you, didn't see you? I want to hear your story. Because stories like ours, they matter. Your voice matters. If anything in this video hit home for you, leave a 1 in the comments. Or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't quite connect, tell me that too. What would you have done in my place? This space is for real stories, real voices, and quiet truths spoken out loud. So if you want more stories like this, ones that linger after the screen fades to black, subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. Thank you for listening. Stay true, stay steady, and stay standing.
Hello, I'm Ingrid and I'm 27 years old. I was orphaned at a very young age when both my parents died in a car crash. With no family to take care of me, I was placed in an orphanage, where I stayed for about 3 years before being adopted by my new parents, who turned out to be billionaires. My life transformed dramatically, becoming rich and fulfilling. They preferred to keep my adoption private, as they wanted to do good without public attention. When I became an adult and moved into my own place, my adoptive parents decided to expand their business and toured Europe seeking new opportunities. Around that time, I met Patrick, my now ex-husband. We met in college and instantly hit it off after a few conversations. Patrick was a cheerful and caring man, which made me like him even more. Our dates led us to become an official couple, and we had a perfect relationship except for one problem. Patrick's family didn't like me. I first met Patrick's parents after we graduated from college. He had waited to introduce me until we were both well settled in our jobs. Patrick had warned me that his parents were quite judgmental about their children's significant others, and he wanted me to make the best impression. I didn't mind delaying the meeting because meeting the parents always made me nervous. By the time I met Patrick's parents, we had been dating for 4 years and were engaged. I knew this might be an issue for his parents since they didn't even know me as his girlfriend. The day before we were supposed to meet them, I was freaking out. They're going to hate me, Patrick. They won't, I promise. Don't you think they'll be shocked to find out we're engaged? Well, yeah, but I don't think it will be that big of a deal. Are you serious? You were worried about introducing me because you know how judgy they are? And you think telling them we're engaged won't make it worse? Look, even if they do judge, will it really matter? It doesn't to me, and I don't think it should to you. You always seem so careful about them. I promise it won't affect us at all, Ingrid. All right, if you say so. But do you think maybe we should not tell them about the engagement and wait a month or so? If that makes you feel better, we can do that. I don't mind either option. Let's hide it just in case. I'll do anything to get on their good side. You have nothing to worry about. I'll be there with you no matter what. I had been so anxious because whenever I suggested Patrick tell his parents about me, he would make a big deal about their potential disapproval. At this point, I began to understand why Patrick was so hesitant to introduce me to his family. Patrick's family was very wealthy and loved living lavishly. They wanted the same for their children and only approved of them dating people who were as rich or richer. Compared to their standards, my lifestyle wasn't considered rich. I hadn't told Patrick about my adoptive parents' wealth because I didn't see the point. By the time I figured out why he was so insistent on delaying the introduction, I felt it was even more unnecessary for his parents to know about my family background. I wanted them to like me for who I was, not for my money. Naively, I believed they would, but I was wrong. We decided to meet Patrick's parents at a fine dining restaurant. Patrick held my hand as we walked in, and I wore my engagement ring on a necklace to keep it with me without drawing attention. When we got to our table, his parents already looked upset. Patrick had warned me that they were strict about punctuality, and we were 2 minutes late. We were off to a bad start. His parents glanced at me with disdain and proceeded to ignore me while conversing with Patrick. I felt increasingly small and out of place with a growing urge to leave. I kept my head down until Patrick finally directed their attention to me. Mom, Dad, you can't just keep talking to me. This is my wonderful girlfriend, Ingrid. Oh, hello. It's a pleasure to meet both of you. Wish I could say the same. Mom. What? I'm only speaking the truth. So Ingrid, I heard you and Patrick met in college. Is that right? Yes, we did. We happened to share some classes together. Aha, and how did you manage to attend this college? From what I know, the tuition is pretty high, and it's a hard place to get into. Dad, that's enough. Patrick, you will not speak to your father that way. He's asking a very valid question. Ingrid, please answer him. Well, I got a full ride. I'm super grateful for the opportunity because not only did I learn a lot, but I also got to meet Patrick, which has been one of the best things that has happened to me. Of course, it's one of the best things that's happened to you. He's loaded, and you need that kind of money. At least you have some brains because your looks aren't all that great. You know what? That's enough. We're leaving. Come on, Ingrid. Patrick grabbed my hand and we walked out. I was in shock at how his parents had treated me. I couldn't believe people could be so openly cruel. The car ride home was silent as Patrick fumed. When we reached home, he made sure I was okay. But truthfully, I didn't know how to feel. I had dressed nicely, sat properly, and didn't order anything expensive. Yet Paula and Marley judged me without knowing anything about me. Patrick didn't speak to his parents for a while after that. They texted him, claiming we had been very disrespectful by walking out. Patrick didn't respond until a month later when he told them we were engaged. His parents weren't happy, but Patrick threatened to cut contact if they did anything against me. They offered to pay for our wedding on the condition that they made all the decisions. Naturally, neither Patrick nor I wanted that, so we decided to elope. My parents, who were in Europe, knew about our elopement. They were just happy for me and sent a gift to celebrate. Patrick raised his eyebrows at the expensive painting they sent, but I brushed it off as a sign of their generosity. After getting married, we next saw Paula and Marley at a party they hosted for their anniversary. Despite everything, I was genuinely happy they had invited me. Despite the dislike Patrick's parents held for me, I was genuinely happy they had invited me to their anniversary party. However, when we got there, I was ignored by everyone. Being ignored by 2 people was embarrassing enough, but being ignored by about 30 people was even worse. I stuck close to Patrick, but no one tried to talk to me. If I attempted to make conversation, people would either look me up and down and walk away or continue talking to Patrick as if I hadn't spoken. By the end of the night, I was in tears, humiliated, and disgusted by everyone's behavior. At the end of the night, Paula and Marley were asked to make a speech. Although I was tired and wanted to go home, I stayed. In their speech, they began by expressing gratitude for almost everyone in the room, which was the first jab at me. They made several more, and the guests kept laughing. At some point, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up, walked out, ordered an Uber, and cried the entire way home until Patrick got back. When Patrick arrived home, he was upset and angry. Why did you walk out like that? Do you know how embarrassing that was for me? What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me, Ingrid. I had to endure my parents yelling at me and a lot of the guests pitying me for being with you. Are you serious? What about how embarrassing it was for me? Come on, Ingrid. You could have dealt with it for one night. It was my parents' anniversary. I was ignored by everyone, and your parents chose to make even more fun of me and their toast. How do you possibly expect me to be okay with that? I'm not saying what they did was right, but you could have just lived through it. I would have spoken to them about it afterward. What would that have done for me? I don't like being humiliated. Everyone was laughing at me. You've never been in that position, so it's easy for you to talk about it like it's no big deal. My parents expect an apology from you. I want one too. I'm afraid I won't be doing that. I'll only apologize if they do too. As for you, I see no reason to apologize. You've always stood up for me. I don't see why this is any different. This is different because, unlike before, you humiliated my family in front of all our guests. And your parents humiliated me, your wife, in front of all their guests. Maybe my parents were right about you. You're impossible. With that, Patrick went to sleep in the guest bedroom. I couldn't understand his sudden change in behavior. He had always been the first to stand up for me. For me to walk out should have been a clear sign of how bad they made me feel, yet Patrick didn't seem to care. Patrick didn't talk to me for the next week. I also received texts from his parents calling me ungrateful and an embarrassment. I tried to talk to Patrick, but he refused. Eventually, I decided to give in and apologize to both him and his parents, even though it felt humiliating. I loved Patrick and didn't want this to be the hill I died on. Things only got worse. Patrick's parents retired and hosted family dinners once a week, and Patrick was always invited. The first time they hosted, Patrick brought me along. As soon as I stepped in, the atmosphere became awkward. Paula was busy getting ready, but Marley and the rest of Patrick's siblings glanced at me awkwardly. They didn't talk to me, and Patrick left me standing alone while he caught up with his family. When Paula came downstairs, she saw me and practically flew into a rage. What are you doing here? Excuse me. No, I will not excuse you. What are you doing in my house right now? Well, you invited us for dinner. For the next 2 weeks, Patrick and I didn't speak to each other. It was hard at first, but I got used to it eventually. The family dinners his parents hosted continued, and once a week, I was all alone at home, which I truthfully didn't mind. One of those nights, my parents video called me. Hey, honey, my dad said. Hey, sweetie, how's it going? My mom chimed in. Hey, dad. Hey, mom. Things are not good. Why? What's wrong, sweetie? My dad asked, concern in his voice. If you need help with anything, feel free to ask us, my mom added. I don't think this is something you guys would be able to help me with, but thanks for the offer, I said. Where's Patrick? Is he not helping? My dad asked. That's the thing. He's part of the problem. Huh? Sweetie, could you be a little more clear about what the problem is? My mom asked, her face wrinkled with concern. Well, his parents are pretty wealthy and also very snobby. Oh, I hate those kinds of people, my mom said, her face twisting in disgust. Tell me about it. Anyways, they thought I was some poor girl who could never live up to their standards and fit into their elite circles, so they took it upon themselves to humiliate me every time I met them. What the hell? My dad exclaimed. Oh yeah, and the last time I went over, Patrick's mom decided calling me an orphan was a good insult. That woman, I'm going to claw her face off. How dare she call my precious child an orphan? My mom fumed. Do they not know about us? And what the hell has Patrick been doing in all this? I didn't tell them about you guys because I knew their opinion of me would change if they knew. I wanted them to like me for who I was, not for my wealth. As for Patrick, he's siding with them. He thinks I was disrespectful when I stood up for myself. Honey, are you sure this is the man you want to be with? My dad asked gently. I love him a lot, but this is not how I want it to be. We haven't been speaking to each other for the last 2 weeks, and I'm surprisingly okay with that. We can provide you with the best lawyer. Just say the word, my dad offered. Okay, I think I will need your help with that actually. I'm done with this. All right, sweetie, I'll get you in touch with one of my friends over there. As for your worry about us not being able to help you out, I think we might actually be able to help you get a little sweet revenge. Ha. What do you mean? I asked, curious and hopeful. Your dad and I are coming there next week. We wanted to take you and Patrick on a vacation, but now we can just take you. More things for us to do together, I guess, my mom said with a sly smile. Really? Oh my God, I'm so excited to finally see you both in person again, I exclaimed, feeling genuinely happy for the first time in weeks. The three of us continued to talk for a while. Dad elaborated on his plan to help me. He asked where the family dinners were held, and I told him they took turns hosting at their house and at restaurants. Conveniently, the week my parents were coming, the dinner was going to be at a restaurant. I needed to get the exact location, so I logged into Patrick's email on my phone. If there was one thing I knew about Paula and Marley, it was that they loved to email everyone everything. It wasn't hard to get the location, and I gave it to my parents. Meanwhile, my mom's lawyer friend contacted me, and we started the process of filing for divorce. My parents landed in the States and checked into their hotel, where I met them. We had lunch together, and then they sent me on a spa day they paid for, saying I deserved it while they got ready for their plan. My parents walked into the restaurant where Patrick and his family were dining. According to Dad, when they approached the table, Marley and Paula began to murmur among themselves, recognizing who he was. My mom told me how the conversation went. Hello, Dad greeted them. Oh my gosh, Mr. Burns, what brings you here? Paula stammered. I just happened to see some familiar faces and figured I could drop in and probably dine with you, Dad replied casually. Familiar faces? Who are you speaking about, Mr. Burns? Marley asked, confused. Well, I see Patrick, Dad said, looking directly at him. Hello, a pleasure to meet you. My daughter has spoken a lot about you. Speaking of my daughter, where is she? Your daughter? I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't think she's here, Paula said, flustered. But she should be, right? Dad asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm sorry, Mr. Burns, but we didn't even know you had a daughter, Marley said, trying to regain composure. Of course I do. And she's married to Patrick. What? I'm sorry, but I think you're mistaken, Paula said, her voice trembling. Yes, his wife's name is Ingrid, and she was an orphan, Marley added. Yes, I do know that, and that is why we adopted her, Ed said calmly. Excuse me, you're her dad? Paula asked, her face paling. Yes, and from what I see, she isn't here. She's been telling me there have been some problems with her in-laws, but I see what the problem was. It was you. No, she was the one who hid this huge thing from us. If we knew, we would have treated her better, Paula stammered. She didn't want you to treat her nicely because of her background, Dad retorted. Oh well, she did ask me to hand this over to Patrick. Dad handed Patrick the divorce papers and walked out. After that, it only took a couple of phone calls for a lot of investors to pull away from Marley's business. They were quickly crashing, and nothing was more satisfying than watching them crumble down to the levels they had made fun of. I received a lot of texts from Patrick's family calling me nasty names, while some begged me to talk to my dad and reverse what he had done. Patrick, thankfully, signed the divorce papers without any hassle. My parents and I went on a long vacation after that. I had the time of my life and slowly began to heal. It hurt that I had lost the love of my life, but I also learned how important it is to stand up for myself. I'm forever grateful to my parents for everything they've done for me, and I can't wait to see what else life has to offer me.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm 54 years old, and this last year has been very hard for me and my daughter-in-law. But before I get into that, let me tell you a bit about my son, Ethan. Ethan is my only child. When he was born, my husband and I were struggling to start our business. We wanted a family but decided to have just one child so we could give him all our attention. We worked hard all day to provide for Ethan, and when we came home, we spent all our time with him. It was tiring at first, but seeing Ethan happy made it worth it. As Ethan grew up, he became a smart and handsome young man. Even when he went to college, he still spent a lot of time with us. However, with his good looks, Ethan started becoming a bit of a player. My husband and I were okay with it as long as he stayed safe and made good decisions. Ethan had one serious girlfriend in his junior year of college, but they broke up because I found out he was talking to another girl. They were planning to move in together after graduation, but I convinced him to break up with her since he wasn't in love, he was already interested in others. My husband and I started to worry about the kind of person Ethan was becoming, so we tried to guide him. Things seemed to improve when he met Valerie, my daughter-in-law. They met through mutual friends and hit it off right away. I adored Valerie from the moment Ethan brought her home. She felt like the daughter I never had. Ethan and Valerie dated for about 3 years before getting married. I thought everything was going perfectly, and my worries about Ethan's behavior faded. To make things even better, less than a year after they married, Valerie announced she was pregnant. I was thrilled about becoming a grandmother, especially since my husband and I were now successful and didn't have the stress of running our business. After Valerie's pregnancy announcement, she stopped coming over as often. My husband and I used to host Ethan and Valerie for dinner regularly, but that changed. Concerned, I asked Ethan about Valerie the next time he came over. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" "Hi, sweetie. I'm good. How are you and Valerie doing?" "We're good. Where's Valerie? Why didn't she come with you?" "Well, you know how pregnancy is." "Oh no, does she need help with anything?" "I'm free to help her with anything she needs." "No, it's okay. I've reduced my work hours to help her around the house." "Sure, but more help never hurts." As a woman who's been through pregnancy, I can offer advice and help. "It's really okay, Mom. I've got it under control." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'll call you if we ever need anything." "Yes, you absolutely should." Speaking of calling, I should call Valerie more often. "No, Mom, I was trying to be gentle, but Valerie has been asking for some space." "What do you mean?" "She's feeling a little smothered by all the attention and advice she's been getting from her side of the family. She told me to make sure that no one bothers her right now." "Oh, that's odd. I thought so too, but it's probably just her hormones or something. Anyway, I just want to make this pregnancy as comfortable as possible for her, and if that means telling everyone to give her space, then I'm doing that." "Okay, I got it. I'll keep my distance, but I'll call you for updates if that's okay." "Of course, that's fine. You're doing a great job. By the way, I'm sure Valerie is having a much easier time with you by her side." "I really hope she is. Anyway, let's go out and get dinner now." I thought Ethan's reasoning was odd, but I didn't think much about it. Who was I to interfere in his relationship? I wanted to call Valerie, but I chose to honor her wishes. I remembered how crazy pregnancy made me. I was a monster when I was pregnant with Ethan. I figured I'd wait for Valerie to call me when she wanted, and in the meantime, I'd help Ethan take care of her whenever I could. After that, Ethan rarely called. He always seemed so busy with his new job working for Valerie's dad, one of the most successful businessmen in our state. I was glad Ethan's career was taking off, especially with a baby on the way. I assumed he was also taking good care of Valerie, so I didn't bother him much either. With less on my plate, I struggled to keep myself occupied, so I reconnected with old friends. After planning for a few weeks, we finally agreed to meet at a local cafe. Initially, I was having a great time, but then I saw a familiar head. Even from the back, I knew it was Ethan. Before I could go greet him, I noticed who he was with. He was sitting with another woman, younger than him, with a toddler by her side. They were holding hands and laughing. I left the cafe without him noticing me. Deep down, I knew it was Ethan, but I needed to confirm it. It was him, and he was with another woman. Something felt off. Ethan told me not to call Valerie, but I couldn't ignore my gut feeling. Eventually, I gave in and called her. "Hey, Rachel." "Hi, darling. How are you doing?" It's funny you're asking me that when I should be asking you. How are you? "I'm great. Thank God. You're all right." "Of course. Why? Ethan said you had a stroke. No, I didn't. Are you sure he said that? I would remember it if I had a life-threatening issue. Ethan's been so sad and upset, saying he's been busy taking care of you. Haven't seen Ethan in weeks. I'm completely fine and healthy, I promise. Then where has he been going? Actually, that's why I'm calling. I saw Ethan this morning at a cafe with a woman and a toddler. But he told me he was working today. He's been lying about a lot of things. Do you think he's cheating on you? I don't know. I don't have any evidence. Were they close? Did the child look like him? They were holding hands and laughing, but the child didn't look like him from what I could tell. Why would he lie to me? Sweetie, you need to stay strong. You have a child on the way. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Go through his things. Isn't that an invasion of his privacy? That doesn't matter when your marriage is on the line. He's probably not home much, right? I think he'll be home soon. Whenever he leaves next, go through his things and let me know if you find anything. No matter what, I'll be by your side. I'll help you, and we'll make sure Ethan pays if he's done anything wrong. Thank you so much, Rachel. I really owe you one. No, you deserve better. Take care and keep me updated. I couldn't believe what I had heard. For Ethan to tell Valerie I had a stroke was beyond insane. I saw no reason for him to lie about something so serious, unless he actually was cheating. I didn't want to assume the worst of my son, but I couldn't rule out the possibility. I had hoped that after he married Valerie, his player days were behind him. But after seeing him look so affectionate with another woman while his wife was pregnant at home, I couldn't help but doubt his actions. The more I thought about Ethan cheating on Valerie, the more upset I got. Valerie was pregnant, and this was not the best time for such life-shattering news. But I would feel guilty if I didn't tell her immediately. It was better for her to go through the pain now rather than after the baby was born. I didn't call Valerie after our conversation because I didn't want Ethan to find out we were talking. I waited patiently for her call, even though it was eating me up inside. Finally, she called me 2 days later. She sounded like she had been crying for a long time. Her voice was raw. Hey, Rachel. Are you free? I hope I'm not bothering you. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Of course I'm free, and you could never be a bother. What's going on? I looked through Ethan's phone and found out so much. Oh no, what did you find out? I found him texting multiple women. Oh, sweetie, that's not even the worst part. It turns out the woman he's been visiting for months is pregnant with his child. I feel so disgusted. I can't imagine how you must feel. But you need to channel all these negative feelings into teaching him a lesson. Yeah, but can I ask you something? Of course, sweetie. Do you think I'm ugly? Do you think there was something I could have done to make sure Ethan remained faithful? Sweetie, you can't think that way. You're not ugly at all. The first time I saw you, I thought my son must have done something incredible to be with you. You are not responsible for his actions. You don't have to fight to keep your husband faithful. That was his duty the second he vowed to be by your side forever. You're right. I guess my pregnant brain is making me feel like I did something wrong. And we can't let your pregnancy brain take over now. We're going to get even with Ethan for hurting you this way. Are you sure you want to go against your son? No son of mine would ever lie to and cheat on his wife. This is about teaching him a much-deserved lesson. All right, let's do this. Shall I come over tomorrow when Ethan is out of the house again? Yes. Take care until then. If you want to stay here for the night, that's okay too. No, I'd much rather surprise Ethan. I don't want him to know we're onto his lies. All right, I'll meet you tomorrow. After the call, I didn't know how to feel. I had so many emotions swirling inside me. I wanted to yell at Ethan for his disgusting behavior, but I also wanted to cry with Valerie for the love she lost. One thing was certain. I knew at that moment I no longer had a son. My husband was also very upset by what Ethan had done and called Valerie to apologize. Valerie was surprisingly kind-hearted about it, which only made me angrier at Ethan. How could he throw away a 4-year relationship with the kindest, most caring woman on the planet, especially when she was pregnant with his child? I wanted nothing more than to call Ethan and yell at him for being a jerk, but I knew better. He needed to learn a lesson, and I was determined to make sure he did. After barely getting any sleep, I went to Valerie's place the next morning. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked like a mess. I hugged her tightly and asked how she was holding up. "How are you holding up?" "Well, I've managed to stop crying, so that's where I am right now." "I'm really sorry for Ethan's behavior. I feel terrible that this is happening to you. It's okay to feel bad about all of this, but you have nothing to apologize for. You're right. I just sometimes wonder if Ethan's dad and I raised him better." "That's nonsense. You guys are wonderful people, and I'm sure you raised Ethan to be just like you. Ethan made his own decisions, and that is not a reflection on you two. You're absolutely right, but still, let me help you figure out how to get back at Ethan. I think I already have an idea." "Oh, let me hear it." "I was thinking of informing my dad about Ethan cheating on me. I'm sure with all the time he's been sleeping around, he's been slacking at work. Dad probably only lets him work there because Ethan is my husband and needs the money since I'm pregnant. That's brilliant. Your dad can fire him and you can file for a divorce. But will your dad just believe you blindly?" "Of course, but he won't have to blindly believe me because I have all the proof I need of Ethan's cheating." "That's my girl. That's so smart of you. And what about the woman Ethan got pregnant? Does she know he's married?" "From what I could tell, she didn't." "Then I think it's time you tell her. Confront her with all the evidence and see what she says." "Do you really think that will go well?" "Even if it doesn't, at least the woman will be informed. And if it does go well, it will be horrific for Ethan. Either way, it's a win." "You're right. I'll talk to my dad about this." "Oh, and I'll ask him to make it as embarrassing, and I also think that you should go a step further and expose Ethan to everyone in the family." "I'll help, of course. We'll make sure that no one will help him out." "Do you think that's overkill?" "No, he is not allowed to cheat on his wife, lie to her and me, and then get away with it. This is a harsh lesson he needs to learn." "All right, then thank you so much for helping me out. You have no idea how much this means to me. Of course, you're like the daughter I never had, and I have to help you out in any way that I can. And if you need help with literally anything, feel free to reach out to me." "I definitely will." The events that unfolded after that were nothing short of amazing. Valerie talked to her dad about everything that had happened and even gave him proof of Ethan's infidelity. Needless to say, he was beyond enraged. Valerie was his only daughter, and he was fiercely protective of her. So, of course, at her request, he fired Ethan in front of the entire office. He held a staff meeting and laid into Ethan for his incompetence and lack of loyalty. Ethan was red in the face from embarrassment and probably also anger, but he could not say anything against his father-in-law out of respect. The only reason I knew of any of this was because I got in touch with Valerie's dad and apologized to him for the way Ethan treated Valerie. He assured me that I had nothing to apologize for and told me that I had done way more good for Valerie than ever had my husband, Valerie's father, and I sat down after that and decided that if we wanted to take any further action to teach Ethan a lesson, it would be best for Ethan to no longer live anywhere near us. Together, we pooled all our contacts to ensure that nobody would hire Ethan. With all our reputations combined, that was a pretty easy task. Valerie also managed to reach out to Ethan's mistress, who was pregnant. She wasn't aware that Ethan was a married man and was very angry when she found out. She apologized profusely and told Valerie that she'd end her relationship with Ethan immediately, and she did. She also told Valerie that she would be fighting for full custody of their child and urged Valerie to do the same. By this point, several days had passed since Ethan got fired. Valerie lied and told him that she was staying with her parents because she couldn't take care of herself alone, which was kind of true considering how heavily pregnant she was. During the few days she was away, she also filed for a divorce. As soon as she got the divorce papers, she rushed over to my place to ask how to serve them to Ethan. However, Ethan also decided to show up at my house at that time. He saw Valerie's car in the driveway and practically stormed in through the front door in a rage. "What did you do? What on earth are you talking about, you manipulative snake? That is no way to talk to the mother of your child." "Oh, were you in on this too?" "In on what exactly?" "I don't have a job anymore." "Really? Did my dad finally fire you?" "Finally? You wanted him to fire me? Why would he want his cheating son-in-law to work with him? How did you even find out about that? I happened to see you sitting with the woman you recently impregnated at a cafe." After that, all it took was one phone call to Valerie for the truth to unravel. "So you two didn't think it was fair to approach me about it. You've had to go and tell your dad, Valerie. And you had to get me fired for it. And Mom, did you not care that I would lose my livelihood? You are a disgrace to me and your dad. You deserve nothing less than this." Do you even know how humiliating that was at today's staff meeting? "Valerie, your father yelled at me in front of everyone and then told me to get out of the office and out of your lives. Yeah, I have all your things packed. You can take them and go. You know what? I don't regret cheating on you." "Of course you don't. You're a disgusting person, and we didn't expect anything more from you." "No, you don't understand. Valerie was an absolute nightmare to deal with the second she became pregnant. She was always angry and always in pain. She snored so loud that I barely got any sleep, and she never did any of her work around the house. I would come back home from a tiring day of work to a dirty house and no food. Of course, I went to search for satisfaction elsewhere. You made me pregnant. Don't you dare forget that. You begged me to have your children even when I told you I didn't want children for another few years. And of course, I wasn't able to do much. I was in so much pain because of the pregnancy. You can't possibly blame me for that. And it's even more pathetic of you to blame Valerie's pregnancy for your incompetence as a husband. Your satisfaction should never have come first. Your first priority should have been Valerie and her well-being, something that I told you I would help you with. But you lied about doing it yourself. I had to lie. The two of you meddled too much, and I needed a foolproof plan to make sure I got what I wanted. Well, you just did. So don't blame me for the consequences of your actions. Surely you anticipated getting caught and paying for it, right? What I did not expect was you two teaming up against me. I don't see why I need to have any sympathy for you. Just take your things and get out. This is not over. I'm going to make your lives hell. Sure. Let me see how you do that when you have no job. What do you mean? Valerie's dad, your father, and I'd have made sure to put you on a statewide blacklist for your profession. No company is going to hire you. Good luck. Is this how you treat your own son? How can you betray your son this way? You are not my son anymore. You're nobody to me or your father. We want nothing to do with you. Do us a favor and block and delete our numbers from your phone. Now get out before we call the cops on you." Ethan looked at me like he had been slapped in the face. His eyes welled up with tears as the realization of his mistakes caught up with him. Did I feel an ounce of guilt or sympathy for him? Absolutely not. The only reason I was so enraged by his act was because I knew firsthand how a cheating partner could destroy a family. I went through it with my own parents, and the memories of my mother breaking down every single day because of how hurt she was still haunt me to this day. I felt no remorse or sympathy for Ethan. And frankly, neither did my husband. We had much more pressing matters to attend to anyway. Valerie was due to give birth only a few days after Ethan came over. We put Ethan on the back burner, but we made sure to change the hospital where Valerie was going to give birth, just to make sure that Ethan would not intrude. Thankfully, Valerie had a very healthy, normal birth, and I now have a beautiful baby grandson. A few weeks after Valerie gave birth, though, Ethan came back into our lives. He would come over to my house at any time of the day just to scream at me for ruining his life. He would first do that and then beg me for forgiveness. He tried to tell me that his other child with the other woman also needed him to be here. Apparently, his mistress got full custody of the kid, and he got visitation rights. But there was a clause. If he did not follow his visitation schedule and missed 5 visits, then he could kiss his visitation rights goodbye. It would not be possible for him to visit this child of his very often if he did not find a job in this state. And in fact, he wouldn't be able to see either of them. Ethan's mistress was very kind towards Valerie and recommended to Valerie the same lawyer she used against Ethan to get full custody of their child. Of course, Ethan did not make the divorce or any of the child custody agreements easy for Valerie. It took a long few months for the court to decide what to do, and finally, they ruled in Valerie's favor. She was given a majority of the assets, and she was granted full custody of my grandson. Ethan had the same laws applied to him with the custody of my grandchild as well, and when the verdict was announced, I could see how physically stressed Ethan was about it. My husband and I blocked Ethan everywhere, and after we threatened to get the cops involved again, Ethan stopped coming over to our house to yell profanities at me. My husband and I focused on taking care of Valerie and our grandson. They were our number one priority. We helped cover all the costs of the divorce and have been supporting Valerie ever since she gave birth. We felt it was the only way we could make it up to her for Ethan's horrible behavior. We're nearing the 1-year anniversary of finding out that Ethan had been cheating, and I can safely say that we're all in a better place right now. Well, except for Ethan. I heard through some extended family members that Ethan moved across the country and managed to land a job, but he's still doing miserably. I would feel bad, but I simply can't bring myself to. My grandson would have had a really hard time had Ethan's ways been exposed when my grandson was able to understand what was going on. I would never have let that happen, but the thought was enraging. For now, though, I'm in a better place. I do mourn the loss of the son I thought I had, but I'm in therapy to deal with all my bizarre emotions. I have people that genuinely care for me by my side, and that's all that matters. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Hello, my name is Julia, and I'm 28 years old. These past few months have been crazy, mostly because of my spoiled sister-in-law. But before I get into that, let me tell you a bit about myself. I grew up in an upper-middle-class family. I had some nice things, but I still had to work hard for what I wanted. I'm very close to my family, so I always try to help them out. When I was 23, my last grandfather passed away and left me a good amount of money. It wasn't enough to buy a house, but I could get a nice apartment close to my family, so I did. A few months later, I met my husband, Shane. We had mutual friends who introduced us, and we hit it off right away. We started dating soon after we met. Shane and I had a lot in common and got along well with each other's families, except for Shane's sister, Mabel. While the rest of Shane's family was nice to me, Mabel was always cold. I didn't know why, so I tried to be friendly and helpful, especially when Shane's parents asked me to give her advice on career and college stuff. But Mabel never warmed up to me. I later found out she was jealous because she thought I was stealing attention from her. Mabel always needed to be the center of attention and resented anyone who took it away. I decided I didn't want to be around that negativity, so I spent less time with Shane's family, which Shane supported. Shane and I got married after dating for 4 years. We moved into an apartment and focused on our careers, especially Shane, who was up for a big promotion. For the first few months after we got married, I didn't see much of him because he was working so hard. I didn't mind because we always made time for each other. About a year after we got married, Shane came home from work looking upset. After I asked him what was wrong, he told me he had some bad news. Do you remember that huge promotion I've been working towards? He asked. Oh no, did you not get it? I replied. I did, but there's a downside. I'll have to move to Massachusetts. Massachusetts? That's across the country, I explained. I know. I'm confused about what to do. I have until the end of the week to decide. I can't leave here. I have a house and I don't want to be far from our families. I said, I know, and I wouldn't expect you to leave everything behind. But I worked so hard for this promotion. Shane replied, I understand. We could use the extra money, especially since we're planning to have kids. You should take the job, I said. But what about you? Shane asked. We're married. We can handle long distance for a while, and we can afford to visit each other often. I reassured him. Are you sure? This is a big decision, Shane said. I'm 100% sure. You shouldn't give up on your success because of me. We're strong enough to make long distance work, I said. Of course we are. It's just going to be hard to live extended periods of time without you. How often would we even see each other? You can't take that much time off work either. Calm down, sweetie. I know this is a big change, but we can figure out the details later. For now, let's just celebrate your promotion. Dinner's on me. Let's go. I was devastated, but I knew that if Shane didn't pursue his career the way he wanted, he'd start resenting me. And if I left my comfort zone, I'd feel the same way. After talking about it for a few weeks, we decided it would be best for him to work there for a couple of years. We would visit each other every 3 weeks. It would be tough, but I believed we could make it work. Shane accepted the promotion and was set to fly out in 2 months. Once everything was finalized, like his stay and all that, we told our families. They were sad but supportive. We threw Shane a great farewell party because he would be busy packing up during his last month at home. One day, during his last month, Shane came home with something important to discuss. Sweetie, how was work? I asked. It was good, but I need to talk to you about something. Shane replied. Oh, what is it? Mabel called me today. How is she? Is everything okay with her? It's been a while since we heard from her. She's doing okay but struggling to find a job. She asked if we could help her out. Of course. Did you ask her to send her resume to you? I can pass it on to a few people too. Yeah, I did, but she also asked for one more thing. What is it? She wanted to stay here for a few months. Wait, why? She wants a change of scenery. Apparently, my parents are bugging her too much, and she's fighting with them a lot. What do you think we should do? I mean, I love her, but these are your last months here before your big promotion. Don't want you to deal with anything you don't want to. And no offense, but Mabel can be difficult. I know, but she's family. It feels wrong to turn her down. Don't you think it's odd that she only asked after you told your family about the job? What do you mean? I mean, she doesn't like me, so it's odd that she asked knowing it will be just her and me here. You're right, it is odd. But I don't think she means any harm. If she does, we can just ask her to leave. That's true. So you're going to tell her she can stay? Yeah, but with a strict deadline to leave. All right, that's fine with me. Are you sure? You're the one who will be living with her? Just say no, and I'll tell her. It's okay. She's family, and I shouldn't let my issues get in the way. Thank you, darling. Hush, this is what family does for each other. To be honest, I wasn't thrilled about Mabel staying with me, but she was family, and I wanted to treat her as such. Shane made sure I was completely on board before telling her to move in. He made it clear she had to move out in 2 months. Mabel agreed and seemed thrilled to stay with us. At first, things went well. Mabel was rarely home, and we didn't set any time restrictions for her. Whenever we did see her, she was nice, and I was glad there was no tension. However, that changed quickly. Just 2 weeks after she moved in, Mabel came down for breakfast one morning, which was rare since she usually slept until noon. She seemed happy and greeted us warmly. "Good morning." "Good morning, Mabel. Did you sleep well?" "Oh yeah. I'm so sorry I haven't been home much. I've been used to my freedom to do whatever, whenever a little too much. It's all right as long as you're safe and enjoying your time here." I replied, "It's all good. Julia and I are going to get some groceries in a little while. Let us know if you need anything." "I don't think I need anything specifically, but I do need to ask you guys something," Mabel said. "Yes, what is it?" "Well, before I ask you that, I need to tell you guys that I'm dating someone." "Oh, that's wonderful. What's his name?" "How did you meet him?" "His name is Nathan, and I met him at a club." "A club?" "Yeah, my friend had a birthday party at this club, and Nathan and I got to talking. He's a really cool guy." "How old is he?" "He's 26. And before you say anything, I know you might think he's a little too old for me, but he seriously makes me happy. Like I said earlier, as long as you're being safe, we have nothing else to say." "Yeah, so what is the question you wanted to ask us?" "Well, Nathan just lost his job, and he's struggling right now. Do you think I could ask him to stay here with me?" "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "What? Why?" "Because, first of all, we barely know him. I don't want a stranger living under the same roof as me. It's dangerous. But he's not a stranger to me. He's my boyfriend. That doesn't make him any less of a stranger to us. And secondly, he's a grown man. He can figure out his housing by himself. He can't rely on a freshly graduated girl to provide for him. You have no say in this, Julia. Shane, come on, you understand me, right? You're okay with it, right?" "No, of course I'm not." Shane replied, "I don't think it's okay for you to even ask us when we've graciously let you live here. I don't know what kind of hold Julia has on you, but she's changed you. You're not the amazing brother I had growing up." Mabel shouted as she stormed off. I felt really bad for saying no to Mabel after she told Shane he was not a good brother. Personally, if my siblings said that to me, I would have been crushed. But Shane assured me it wasn't the first time Mabel had said something rude just to get her way. I was upset that Mabel being so mean was so normal that Shane had become desensitized to it. Mabel kept her distance from us after that. She barely spoke to us unless it was absolutely necessary. I tried to talk to her and explain where I was coming from, but she refused to even look at me. Every time I was alone in the living room and she saw me there, she would dash into her room to avoid me. It took me some time, but I eventually made peace with Mabel being that way, especially because I had something more important to focus on: Shane leaving for another state for work. It was really hard for me to deal with Shane leaving. It was a difficult time for us, and it took a few weeks to actually get used to his absence. What made it even harder was Mabel's behavior. Without Shane there, I guess she thought she could treat me however she wanted. She would throw insults my way and make a mess everywhere. Whenever I asked her to clean up after herself, she would laugh at me. She constantly asked to let her boyfriend Nathan over, and when I turned her down, she'd get all huffy and tell me that Shane left me to get away from my prudish behavior. I was so close to kicking her out. In fact, Shane told me I was free to do it if I wanted to. But she was family, so I never did. That all changed when I came home one day to find my bags packed and left outside the apartment. I rang the doorbell and Mabel answered. "Oh, what's going on here? Why are my bags packed and left outside?" I asked. "You're moving out," she said matter-of-factly. "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "Mabel, this is my house. I'm not moving out. You can't just pack my bags and ask me to leave." "Yes, I most definitely can." "How can you do something like that? My brother pays the rent for this place. He's working hard far away just so he can pay for this place. I don't see why you have to live here. That makes no sense. I don't care that your slow brain can't understand what I'm saying. I already packed your things up, so you don't have to worry about it. You're welcome for it. By the way, I have nothing to be grateful for. You can't kick me out of my own home. It's not your place. How do you think Shane is going to react when he finds out that you've kicked me out? He let you stay here out of obligation and love for you. I'm sure he'll understand that I did the right thing. Besides, I also need some space to spend time with my boyfriend." "Your boyfriend?" I asked, stunned. "Yeah, he's moving in. And before you suggest us living together, I don't want that. Unfortunately, there's not enough room for useless people in this house." "Useless? You're the one that doesn't have a job. Just because you have a job doesn't mean you can't be useless. You purposely sent my brother away to work so you could lounge in this huge apartment all by yourself. I will not let that happen any longer. You need to be put in your place. Why in the world would I want to spend time away from Shane? Are you insane? I haven't sent him anywhere. I only supported whatever decision he chose to make. Look, I don't care about all that. You need to leave and take your things with you. You're going to be sorry for this." "Oh, I feel so scared. You know what? Bring it on. Let me see what that pathetic threat of yours can actually do." Mabel slammed the door in my face after saying that. I was shocked at what had happened. Once the shock faded, I was shaking with rage. I tried ringing the doorbell again for a while, but Mabel never answered. I couldn't understand how she could turn on me when I had been so accommodating and tolerant of her behavior. But it did make sense why she would treat me that way, considering she thought that Shane paid rent for the place. It was still no excuse for her to treat me that way. My rage turned into panic and humiliation. I quietly picked my things off the floor and made my way to my car. I didn't know where to go, so I just drove around for a while. I checked the time in Massachusetts before calling Shane to let him know what was happening and what to do about it. "Hi, darling. How are you?" "Actually, not good." "What? Why? Is everything okay?" "It's not. Today, when I got back home from work, I was greeted with all my bags packed." "What do you mean? Where was Mabel?" "Mabel was the one who packed my bags and asked me to move out." "What? Why would she do that?" "She thinks that I'm useless, so you shouldn't have to spend money on rent just to pay for me. She's also moved her boyfriend in to live with her." "Oh my God. I'm so sorry that she's behaving that way. There's no need for you to apologize. I'm just upset at her audacity. She did not even seem to care about what your reaction would be to her kicking me out. She thinks that you'll eventually realize that she was right for doing that. That's insane. I would never be okay with that. I'm so angry that I want to give her a piece of my mind right now. You and me both. Do you want to do something about it? I'm only asking because I want you to know that I'm going to support you no matter what you do. I don't really know what to do. Mabel clearly doesn't know that the apartment belongs to you. Maybe there's some legal action you could take." "Oh yeah, of course. I do have an idea, but I don't exactly know how you feel about it." "What do you mean?" "I could report her as a trespasser, and she would be escorted out by the police. It might even go on her record." "That's a great idea. I was getting tired of her entitled behavior, and this is just the last straw. I will not have her kick you out of your own home. Are you sure? Absolutely. Besides, I really don't like her boyfriend. I'm sure it'll do him good to be taken out by the police. All right. I'll call the police right now and report Mabel. Yeah, just keep me updated about the whole thing. And if you need me to come there, just say the word. I'll let you know about it. But for now, I think I can handle everything. I knew that Shane would be on my side, but I just needed some more reassurance from him. When I got it, I immediately went down to the police station and filed a report against Mabel for trespassing. After proving my ownership of the apartment, the police officer asked me if I wanted to accompany them to my apartment, but I told them that I did not want to see Mabel at that point. They asked me to wait there or go someplace where I could wait a while till they got Mabel out of the house. I went over to my mom's house. My mom was upset to hear about what had happened and offered to help me too. It took a long while, but eventually, the police officers asked me to come back home and make sure that nothing was stolen. I practically raced back home, and when I got there, I looked everywhere to make sure I still had everything. Thankfully, everything was there. I thanked the police officers for their help, and they told me that they had a slight issue with getting Mabel out. They also told me to call them if I needed help with her again, because she had been put on their record now. I was confused about what had happened, but at least Mabel was finally out of my house. I was honestly too tired to ask what happened. The next morning, however, I got all my answers. Mabel called me to yell at me. You called the cops on us. I told you that you would be sorry for kicking me out. Why would the cops arrest us anyway? We were not trespassing in any way. This was a flat that Shane was paying for, right? No, he wasn't. I know you made up a huge bunch of lies just to get us arrested. Do you even know what's been happening? No, and frankly, I don't care. Have your bags packed and I need you to come and pick them up by the end of the day. You got Nathan arrested. He's going to go to jail. Oh, how did that happen? We thought the cops were trying to force us out, so he put up a fight and ended up injuring the officer in the process. This is all your fault. You need to call the cops and tell them that you lied. But I didn't lie about a single thing. Don't test me, Julia. I've only been quiet about my dislike for you because I respect Shane. But if you don't call the cops and make things right, I'm going to tell my family about everything and you're going to be shunned by everyone. What exactly are you going to tell them? That I kicked you and your boyfriend out of the apartment that I own? What are you talking about? The apartment that you kicked me out of is mine. I bought it right after I graduated. No, you're lying. You're trying to keep the lie up. I just know it. I have no reason to lie. You can ask Shane yourself. If you want me to send you the documents of my purchase, I can do that too. Why would you not say anything to me about it? Why was this hidden? I don't see why my affairs are your issue. It's not my fault that you made assumptions for which you have to pay the price right now. Yes, it is. You need to do something about this. If you had told me that you own the apartment, I would not have anything on my record and Nathan wouldn't be in jail. I have nothing to do with this, Mabel. Shane and I were nice to you because you were family. You did nothing but make our lives hell. I could have kicked you out right after Shane left, but I didn't do that because I cared about you. This is no way to treat the person that's helping you out. Maybe you could learn something from this. Goodbye. When Mabel started spreading lies, I was furious. So every time I got a call from a concerned family member, I would send them the video recording of the day that Mabel threw me out of my own home. Thankfully, our entire conversation happened at the doorstep and my security doorbell caught the whole interaction. With that proof, everyone began to turn on Mabel, and that only made her angrier with me. She couldn't reach out to me, so she called Shane and tried to get into an argument with him about me. But Shane wasn't having any of it. He chewed her out real good and told her to stop bothering the both of us. Mabel also ended up getting kicked out of her parents' house because they didn't want to have anything to do with a lying, manipulative, and thieving person. Eventually, Mabel gave up her huge ego and came over to my place to beg me to take her back. She cried and begged me to help her out because she didn't have any other place to go to. Now, here's the thing. No matter how much I wanted to help her, I couldn't let go of the feeling of getting kicked out of my own home. So while I couldn't help her live with me, I did suggest some alternatives for her until she got up on her own feet. She did not like that. I wasn't helping her out, and she threw a fit. I had to eventually ask her to leave, and when she did not, I threatened to call the cops again. Thankfully, that got her out of the door almost immediately. I was paranoid about Mabel having a copy of the keys to my place, especially considering how she never returned it to me even when I asked her to. So I made sure to change the locks, which was once again a smart move because Mabel did try to break in. I snapped after that and called the police on her again. This time she got arrested for real. She was slapped with a hefty fine, and since it was her first offense, she got off with community service. I also managed to get a restraining order against her. It's been a good few months since all of this went down. It was really hard to get rid of the paranoia of her breaking in again, but eventually, things calmed down. Almost everyone in Shane's family has cut ties with Mabel, although they're willing to let her back in once she realizes how bad her actions were and she apologizes for it. I don't know what's been going on in her life now, and I'm happy to not know any of it. I'm just happy that she's no longer someone that I have to deal with. I'm happier now, and so is Shane. Never in my life did I think I'd have to deal with things like this, but it is comforting to know that I was able to handle this in the best way possible. Thanks for listening. My name is Sophia, and I'm 31 years old. I work part-time at a neighborhood supermarket. Today is the beginning of November, and things are starting to get busy as we approach the end of the year. Manager, can I talk to you about taking some time off during Christmas? I asked. That's unusual for you, Sophia. Why do you need time off? The manager replied, we're planning to spend Christmas at my husband's parents' house this year, so I need the 24th and 25th off. I explained. Oh, that's the reason. Of course, that's fine. You always work hard, Sophia. The manager said, thank you so much. That helps a lot. I replied, isn't your husband's family far away? You're from around here, right? The manager asked. Yes, I'm from a neighboring town, but my husband is from Boston. I said, Boston. That's quite a distance. The manager noted. Yes, it is. We haven't been able to introduce Alexander to his grandparents yet. I said, even more reason for you to go. Don't worry about the store. Visit your family. The manager reassured me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I said, Alexander, my son, is 2 years old and goes to a childcare center. When I gave birth 2 years ago, a societal issue made it difficult to introduce him, and we hadn't found the right time until now. My husband, Lucas, is a medical technician at a hospital, and it's been hard for him to take time off. So we're eager to make it happen this Christmas. Later at home, Lucas asked, do you think you can get time off for Christmas? Yes. I got the okay from my manager. I replied. After Alexander went to sleep, Lucas and I shared a late dinner. I'll call my dad. He tried to reach me while I was on my way home. Lucas said, whenever there's news, it's always your dad who calls. Your mom is the quiet type. I noted. That's true. Lucas agreed. My dad has a cheerful personality and loves to talk. My mom is quiet and speaks sparingly. We haven't had many chances to talk since getting married, so I'm hoping this visit will help us get closer. Lucas called his dad. Hello, Dad. What's up? Got it. I'll talk to Sophia about it later. Lucas said before hanging up. Dad is really excited to meet Alexander. He can't stop talking about it. He said to let him know if we need anything. I'm glad they're excited. My parents also said we should go this year to introduce Alexander. I said, "You love my parents too, don't you?" Lucas asked. "Yes, we both do. We're in the same boat." I agreed. We were looking forward to our visit. On Christmas morning, after a 4-hour drive, we arrived at Lucas's parents' house just before noon. I saw my sister-in-law's car parked outside, so I knew they had already arrived. "Merry Christmas," we called out as we stepped into the house. Lucas's father greeted us with a big smile. "Good job on the drive. Take it easy." Today, my father-in-law was holding Ava, my sister-in-law's daughter. "Oh, Ava, you've grown so much," I exclaimed. "I'm 6 years old now. I'm in elementary school." Ava replied proudly. "Wow, that's amazing. Look, there's Alexander," I said, pointing to my son. Ava climbed down from her grandpa's arms and smiled brightly at Alexander, who smiled back. How cute, I thought. Come on in," my father-in-law said, inviting us inside. In the living room, we saw my sister-in-law Isabella and her husband. Isabella's husband smiled at us, but Isabella looked at us with a serious face. "Merry Christmas," he greeted them. "Merry Christmas," Isabella's husband replied, but Isabella stayed silent. I felt a bit awkward, but then Lucas came into the living room. "Henry, Isabella, Merry Christmas. We haven't seen each other in a while. How have you been?" Lucas greeted them. Isabella, who had been staring at us, finally smiled. Did they just ignore me? I wondered, but Lucas and Isabella's husband didn't seem to notice. Maybe I was overthinking it. I tried to brush it off and sat down. "Lucas, can you watch Alexander for a bit? I'm going to help mother-in-law in the kitchen," I said. "Sure, no problem," Lucas replied. I went to the kitchen to help my mother-in-law. "Merry Christmas, mother-in-law. Let me help you," I said. She glared at me, bumped my shoulder, and said, "You're in the way." Then she walked back to the living room. I heard her say, "Oh, Lucas, Merry Christmas. How have you been? What's going on?" I thought. First, Isabella ignored me, and now my mother-in-law was being rude. Did I do something wrong? I couldn't think of anything. We hadn't spoken much over the past 2 years since Alexander was born. Decided not to let it bother me for now and planned to discuss it with Lucas later. I returned to the living room and took Alexander from Lucas. My father-in-law handed Alexander an envelope. "Here you go, Alexander. Some gifts for you," he said. Alexander looked happy with the envelope. "Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me." "What a smart kid," my father-in-law beamed. But I noticed my mother-in-law and Isabella grinning. It didn't seem like a friendly smile. It felt sarcastic. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. Time passed, and in the evening, we headed home. The next day, we visited my parents. Alexander was all smiles when he saw his grandparents. "Merry Christmas. Grandpa and Grandma have presents for you," they said. My dad handed Alexander an envelope too. "Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me." My dad said, "You're kidding. That's exactly what father-in-law said." I thought. Everyone laughed. When I took the envelope, I felt it was unusually heavy. Why does it feel so heavy? I wondered. I hadn't noticed anything inside when I received it from my father-in-law the day before. Later, after giving Alexander a bath and putting him to bed, I decided to check the envelope. Oh, it is indeed $100, just like last year. I said to myself. I felt a bit guilty. We'll have to give something back in return, won't we? I said to Lucas. Just like last year. Lucas agreed. My parents didn't hold back because I'm their only child, and Alexander is their first grandchild. I felt a mix of amazement and gratitude. I noted down the amount of money received. My dad seemed to be in sync with my father-in-law. It was going to be an interesting year. Last year, since we couldn't meet, they had sent us a gift card for $100. They were thrilled to have a grandson. Remembering how happy my father-in-law was holding Alexander and talking the day before, I smiled and continued today. My father-in-law was holding Ava, my sister-in-law's daughter. Ava, you've grown so much. I exclaimed. I'm 6 years old now. I'm in elementary school. Ava replied proudly. Wow, that's amazing. Look, there's Alexander, I said, pointing to my son. Ava climbed down from her grandpa's arms and smiled brightly at Alexander, who smiled back. How cute, I thought. Come on in, my father-in-law said, inviting us inside. In the living room, we saw my sister-in-law Isabella and her husband. Isabella's husband smiled at us, but Isabella looked at us with a serious face. Merry Christmas, I greeted them. Merry Christmas, Isabella's husband replied, but Isabella stayed silent. I felt a bit awkward, but then Lucas came into the living room. Henry, Isabella, Merry Christmas. We haven't seen each other in a while. How have you been? Lucas greeted them. Isabella, who had been staring at us, finally smiled. Did they just ignore me? I wondered, but Lucas and Isabella's husband didn't seem to notice. Maybe I was overthinking it. I tried to brush it off and sat down. Lucas, can you watch Alexander for a bit? I'm going to help mother-in-law in the kitchen, I said. Sure, no problem, Lucas replied. I went to the kitchen to help my mother-in-law. Merry Christmas, mother-in-law. Let me help you, I said. She glared at me, bumped my shoulder, and said, You're in the way. Then she walked back to the living room. I heard her say, Oh, Lucas, Merry Christmas. How have you been? What's going on? I thought. First, Isabella ignored me, and now my mother-in-law was being rude. Did I do something wrong? I couldn't think of anything. We hadn't spoken much over the past 2 years since Alexander was born. I decided not to let it bother me for now and planned to discuss it with Lucas later. I returned to the living room and took Alexander from Lucas. My father-in-law handed Alexander an envelope. Here you go, Alexander. Some gifts for you, he said. Alexander looked happy with the envelope. Sophia, did you hear that? Alexander just said thank you to me. What a smart kid, my father-in-law beamed. But I noticed my mother-in-law and Isabella grinning. It didn't seem like a friendly smile. It felt sarcastic. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination. Later, when we got home, I opened the envelope. Wait, what? I said, shocked. There was a single green leaf inside. I was at a loss for words. Lucas, startled by my reaction, exclaimed, What? A leaf? What on earth is this? He started laughing, thinking it was a prank. Let's call them. They might be concerned too, I suggested. Lucas, still chuckling, tried calling my father-in-law, but got no answer. They might be in the shower. Let me try calling Mom, he said. He called his mother, who answered. After a brief conversation, Lucas said, Mom sounds really apologetic. She wants to talk to you, Sophia. Is that okay? Sure, I replied, taking the phone reluctantly. As soon as I picked up the call, my mother-in-law went silent. Then I heard a faint laugh in the background that sounded like Isabella. Hello, mother-in-law. Like I would ever apologize to you, you poverty-stricken wife. Your children are as poor as a leaf. See ya, paper wife. She sneered and hung up. I was stunned. All the events of yesterday suddenly made sense. What was I going to do? Sophia, what's wrong? Lucas asked, noticing my distress. I don't know how to explain it. I stammered. Just then, Lucas' phone rang. It was his father. Maybe he's calling back. Lucas said, putting the phone on speaker. Dad, did you call by mistake? No, it's Ava. A child's voice replied. Grandpa's in the shower. I wanted to talk. Ava, we're in the middle of something important. Lucas said. Oh, really? Bye, Lucas, and bye, poor auntie, Ava said cheerfully. Wait, Ava, what did you say? Lucas asked. I said bye, poor auntie. Mommy and Grandma called you that earlier. They're chatting over coffee now. Ava explained. Ava, could you explain that to Lucas? I asked, trying to stay calm. Sure. Mommy told me that for poor people, money gifts are just a single leaf, Ava said innocently. Lucas looked at me, baffled. I stayed silent, trying to process everything. My sister-in-law noticed Ava on the phone and shouted, Ava. Just then, my father-in-law's voice came on the phone. We'll talk about it later. Feeling confused, I saw the phone being handed over to my father-in-law. Sorry about that. I was in the shower. Ava said something outrageous, didn't she? He said. So, you heard it too, Dad. I'm sorry, Lucas said. We're on speaker. Sophia's listening too. Sophia, was what Ava said true? Those words were directed at you, right? My father-in-law asked, sounding distressed. Yes, that's right. I confirmed. I'm truly sorry. Please don't blame Ava. She didn't mean any harm. My father-in-law apologized. No, it's all right. Ava's not at fault, I said, trying to sound calm. My father-in-law sighed deeply. I am really sorry. Please don't hold this against Ava. Thank you. I'll follow up on this matter. Isabella's here too, and will confirm things with her, my father-in-law said before ending the call. Lucas looked at me, clearly confused and apologetic. I'm really sorry, Sophia. I have no idea what's going on. I told him about all the discomfort I felt during our visits to his parents' house. We decided to wait for a response from my father-in-law. Surprisingly, the next day, Isabella's husband drove my in-laws and Isabella to our house. They stood before us, with my father-in-law and Isabella's husband apologizing profusely. We've done something truly disrespectful. We are sorry. We apologize for the outrageous behavior of my wife. The deep apology was appreciated, but my mother-in-law and Isabella didn't say a word. After being married for 4 years, I couldn't fathom the reason behind their animosity, especially since we rarely met. May I ask why you suddenly acted this way towards me? I asked, hoping to understand their behavior and possibly address any misunderstanding. There was no response. They were intent on ignoring me. My father-in-law, enraged by their attitude, shouted, "Answer her." Finally, Isabella grudgingly responded, "Well, Mom was originally against the marriage." Wait, that's it. And why? I asked, perplexed. Why did you let him marry a woman like this? A woman who doesn't even wear a single brand name item, who dresses in mass-produced cheap clothes. She spat out. Indeed, I wasn't interested in branded items, unlike Isabella and my mother-in-law, who both liked and wore them. Are you saying that's the only reason you insulted me? I asked, astonished. That's all it is. I just don't want you in our family. I wish you would divorce soon and disappear. How could you say something so rude? And you, why are you supporting such a woman? You're an elite employee at a top-tier company. You should choose someone suitable for our family, right? Despite Lucas being a well-qualified medical professional, we can't accept such a woman as a family member, can we? Upon hearing Isabella's true feelings, her husband was speechless. But it didn't end there. My mother-in-law's next words revealed where this attitude came from. Originally, I had found a suitable partner for Lucas. Despite that, he brought home some unknown woman and declared they were getting married. It was a true shock. What? You were doing such a thing without telling us? Lucas asked, incredulous. There are limits to what's acceptable, Mom. Sylvia is my wife, Lucas said, trying to defend me. It's fine, isn't it? She's just a poor girl. Her parents didn't seem very impressive either, quite impoverished, don't you think? She wasn't wearing a single branded item. In other words, she's from a struggling household that finds it hard to make ends meet. What? What are you saying? Lucas shouted, horrified. And to love a child born of such a woman? Impossible. It would taint our precious Ava. We had plans for her to marry a friend's child. Upon hearing his mother's true feelings, Lucas was speechless. I felt the same, wondering how I could have missed all this if I consider that my father-in-law called not out of interest but disinterest. Everything makes sense as harassment. Well, it's fine. If you divorced, please do it as soon as possible. Let's go. We don't need to get involved in this farce, my mother-in-law said dismissively. Just as my father-in-law was about to say something, the living room door dramatically opened, and my parents walked in. It's been a while. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, my dad said calmly. Did Sophia call you? Yep. It must be hard to be talked about like that without saying anything, right? He continued. When I heard that my father-in-law was coming over, I had contacted my parents. They had heard some of the terrible comments from outside the door. Their timing was perfect. My parents approached my mother-in-law with serious faces. They took out business cards from their pockets and said, "Here you go." Amazingly, they dropped their business cards at her feet, as if to say, "Pick it up." I had to suppress my laughter. Isabella rose to their bait, picking up the card and shouting, "Such arrogance from poor people. You didn't even wear any branded items today, and your clothes look mass-produced." As soon as she looked at the card, she was startled. "Mom," she exclaimed. My mother-in-law also looked at the business card Isabella held. "You two are executives of Valet Clos." "Yes, my husband and I started out together. He's an executive at the headquarters, and I'm the head of planning. Our daughter quit when she got married. You know that, right?" My mom replied calmly. Both of my parents currently work at the headquarters of Valet Clos, a famous low-cost apparel brand. After graduating from college, I had spoken to my father-in-law and mother-in-law about myself, but my parents had never explained their situation. So she could go back to work anytime she wanted, right? Isabella stammered. "What? That's amazing. You work at that famous fashion brand's major corporation," my mother-in-law said, her tone changing completely. "So, what do you mean we're poor? That my grandchild is the grandchild of a poor wife? Because you opposed the marriage, it's okay to harass us?" My mom continued, her voice firm. "It's not. We're really sorry," my mother-in-law said, but her apology was only because my parents held executive jobs. It was beyond the point of being resolved by just an apology. Henry looked disappointed as he said, "I thought it was a good thing to leave Ava with my parents. But I'll drive you home. But after that, we'll live separately." "What? What are you talking about?" Isabella asked, shocked. "I'm glad I got to see your true face. Let's discuss our divorce when we get home," Henry said. Henry then left the house. At that moment, my father-in-law also stood up, bowed deeply to my parents, and said, "I'm really sorry for what happened." He then turned to us. "I'm really sorry. I'll be in touch." Looking sternly at my pale-faced mother-in-law, he said, "Be prepared when you get home before exiting our house." My mother-in-law and Isabella hurriedly grabbed their belongings and rushed out. I caught my breath at home after my parents kindly offered to pick up Alexander from the child care center. Later, I received a call from my father-in-law. He told me that my mother-in-law had been forcibly sent back to her parents' house. It's a de facto separation. Apparently, They made this decision because they were unsure what she might do to Alexander. But it's a separation with the premise of divorce, and they are waiting for the right timing. As for Isabella, the divorce was finalized immediately. After she returned home, Henry obtained custody of Ava. Isabella, of course, has taken refuge in my mother-in-law's house. But she is getting a good scolding from my mother-in-law's mother and is currently on a job hunt. We continue to live our busy daily lives. It feels really good to not only see our child grow up, but also to share this joy with his grandparents.